What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. I'm Joe Nissom, and as always, with me is Mr. David Fuchs. David, how are we?
I'm good. I'm good. Back at the garden.
Back at the Garden in the summertime, waiting for the Knicks to come back and play. No
Yep,
draft picks for the
exactly.
Knicks. They give it away,
Nope. Yep.
but they might be signing Obi Toppin's brother. I read this morning.
Love it.
That
I
would be.
love it.
Um, let's talk a little bit about exam day.
Yeah.
You kind of have a blueprint of kind of breaking the exam into quarters. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about how you do that?
It's nothing revolutionary. It's very simple. It is there's everybody knows there's four parts on the exam. There's 42 and 43 for the first half, and then there's 42, 43 for the second half. What I did was, and even though there's no mandatory break in between one and two, and then in between three and four, I would always kind of break the exam into four parts because if you go in and you're going to start the first half and you have 85 questions to answer, it's just a lot to tackle mentally. And it's a lot to kind of condition yourself to sit there going through 85 CFP exam questions. So, what I would always do is I would break it up into four parts in my head. I'd be like, all right, I'm going to answer the first 42, which is a lot more manageable. And I'm sure you can agree, and a lot more less intense than 85. So I go like, I'm gonna get to the first 42, and then I'm gonna go out, like, take a little break, run to the bathroom, even though the clock is still running. Obviously keep that in mind. The clock is still running, but I would still take a little mental break and even walk away from the computer for 3 to 5 minutes just to kind of get myself a little bit refreshed and refueled before going into the second part of that 85 question half, so the next 43. And and then and then obviously you do the same thing on the second half. Take the first 42, take a little break, take the second 42. For me, like, I would always be like at 25, like, let's say you're at like question 23, right? Which is, you've done a lot, but you still have a lot left before you get to 85. But if you know in your mind that, oh, I have to get to 42, it just keeps you a little bit more refueled going through it. So I always broke it into four parts.
So this is like a mental strategy for you breaking this apart in the four.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I did it on every mock that I took with you, not the first time. First time I took the exam, I would just go straight through, and I was literally dead by the end of 85 questions on the first half. And then by the end of the second half, I was obviously just completely wiped out. But if you do it in this, it's just like, it just seems like it's a little bit easier. Like, all right, for example, Joe, I know you work out, right? So if you're doing a set of, and I know most people don't do sets of 20 reps, but let's say you're doing 20 reps of whatever squats, right?
This is 20 reps. Like when you think about it,
The
this
exam. You mean the
yeah, if you're doing 25 question quizzes, they're not that hard to get through. You got to think about this like you're doing a 20 rep, 25 rep set.
right, exactly. So, like, if you're doing 20 reps, and if I'm, and when I'm working out or whatever, I'll always kind of break up the reps in my head. Like, I won't go like 1, 2, 3 all the way up to 15. Like, I'll go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 15. Done.
Hmm.
Yes, you're still doing 15 reps. You're still answering 170 questions. But to me, it was always a little mental trick that I played on my mind to help me get through it and not be so stressed about answering 170 questions. I always broke it up into 40 questions, which is way more manageable
Hmm.
than, 85 or even 170.
Yeah, I agree with that because when you think about anything that is that long of a time that you're sitting down and focusing on one thing, and for me with like weightlifting, I can tolerate that. That's like where I live. Like I love weightlifting, so that's not that big of a deal for me. I kind of like enjoy that challenge. But running for me is like putting me inside of a torture chamber.
Me too. I hate it.
I hate running. So,
I hate it.
for me, like if I'm running a mile, I'm literally breaking it into, all right, let's just do this first lap. Like, and if you're running around a
Right,
track, it's easy, but if you're on the road, it's like, okay, the only thing that I'm focusing on right now is when my phone or the watch or whatever says 0.25, or I kind of have a mental mark of where 0.25 is. Like when I used
right,
to run
exactly.
during COVID, I would kind of just throw my headphones on and my phone would be in my pocket. So I was never like looking at it. Like I actually hate running with a watch because I look at it way too much. But I kind of knew like that when I got to there's this bus stop and I knew that was halfway to halfway. It was like so like it was like
Right, right.
get to
So that was a
that bus
quarter.
stop. That was like okay, good. And that was kind of like when the runs started feeling okay. And then by the time I got to the gas station, I knew okay, like now I'm kind of there. And then I would run. It was just like another 2 blocks, and then it was like a turn. And then by the time I got to, there's a sports store and a coffee shop that are right across from each other. It was pretty much almost done. And then then boom, I'm at that corner where now I walk the rest of the way. And I just remember kind of that's how I would mentally break it up, and especially because when you're doing stuff with other people and you're watching them grunt through it and they're making noise, you're making noise, it's a little bit easier. But when you study by yourself and you're taking this exam solely by yourself, these little mind tricks make the exam just significantly more manageable.
So much more manageable. Like honest, and another good analogy that I'll use is I remember I was driving to Florida or Nashville, and those are pretty long drives,
Yeah.
right? 10 hours, 15 hours, whatever. We would do like 3 hours, 2, 3 hours at a time, stop, get some food, go to the bathroom, like whatever you got to do. And then another 2, 3 hours, stop, get gas, go to the bathroom, get food, maybe whatever, and then another 2, 3 hours. And like, yeah, like obviously, yes, you're still driving the 10, the 15 hours, and that doesn't change. But doing it all at once as opposed to doing it in little small intervals makes it, as you said, a lot more manageable.
Yeah. I mean, I did that. I drove out to Zion during COVID, and it was just like I would stop pretty much like every 120 miles.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, all right, when I get to 120, I'm gonna take a break.
Yep. And I would like
And we
reset the
even
thing in my car too.
Yeah, right, right. And even like studying, like I remember I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna do 30 to 45 minutes, and then I'm gonna go and maybe like take the dog for a walk or like go grab like a quick bite or whatever. Like, and then
Yep.
I'm gonna come back and do another 30, 45 minutes. And yes, that's all studying. We're talking about driving cars and lifting weights, but it's the mindset
That's right.
that we're trying to kind of
Yeah.
articulate right now is and even to a more like micro level, Joe, like even in the 42 question interval, I would even break those into like 10 question intervals. I'd be like, all right, let me get to question 10, and then let me get to question 20, and then let me get to question 30, and then we'll do the last 12 and we'll get to 42.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah. Because when you look at it in 42 or 43 question increments, if you get to 20 of 170, you're sitting there going, holy shit, 150 questions left. But if you get to 20, you're like, I'm halfway there.
right, exactly.
Right. And that's significant. Like it's the same thing that's on your mileage meter. It's like, oh, I just did 30 miles of the 120. I'm a quarter of the way there. I'm at 60. Oh, but it's not 60 miles of the 450 that I'm driving. It's 60 of the 120. So it tricks your brain into feeling like it's a little bit easier than it is. And I think that's just
Right.
that goes miles. And I think for
100%.
managing that, I think it's something that you rehearse. And I think once you get in that groove, you start feeling like, oh, 20, like, and I like the idea of like, even your quarters, breaking them into halves, like all I'm thinking
Mhm.
about is this first 22 questions.
Yep, exactly.
Then I'm worrying about the
Exactly.
next, 20 or 21 questions, whatever it is. And I think just focusing on that, just kind of, all right, halfway through, break. Halfway through, done, break. halfway through, done, break. And it's like
Yep.
a nice little rhythm that you just hold that rhythm all the way to the end and you're in good shape. And I think it just, you know, again, managing this process, and you know this, the reason that we do this is because you can fall off a cliff very, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Um, like really
And
quick on this test.
mhm.
Like, and you know, you felt it the first time that you took, you came out of that first 85 and you're like, damn,
I was like, I ain't passing this.
right.
But really, really quickly. So another thing that I did was I literally treated half the midway point after 85. They give you like a 30 to 40 minute break. You can do whatever you want. You could even go on your phone. I know for a fact because I'll tell you in a minute, but I treated that midway point like halftime. Like I just came in from the first half of a football or basketball game and I was like, all right, let me refuel, let me game plan, let me figure out what I have to do to go out there and finish this off. And I just quickly pulled up a text to you on March 15th of 2022, which was the day that I took the exam.
Yeah.
And I said this, I said, halfway done. I'm in the locker room and it's close.
Yeah. I
If
remember,
I,
I
if I
remember,
had
look,
to,
I remember
it,
looking at that. I'm like, he's kind of
why the fuck she's texting me?
I'm
I
like,
said,
why
if
is
I
he
had
texting
to,
me in the middle of the exam? This crazy bastard.
I said, if I had to guess, it's within a score in either direction.
Yeah.
But I could skate with them this time because I'm more conditioned.
Uh,
I'm refueling with some food and Gatorade and then heading back onto the battlefield. And like, yes, that's funny and it's all like good and well, but like everything that I said in that text, yes, it was obviously meant to be like a little bit humorous and like, break the tension, but that's like literally exactly how I felt.
hmm. And as you should, do you know what I mean? Like that is a great way of looking at it. I mean, that is like you sit down, like, you know, for me, I'm like off my phone because if I start seeing like texts and emails and stuff, I'm going, I don't, even though I'll shut it down, I don't even want to look at it. I don't want the stress of it. So, like, kudos
Yeah.
to you for being able to like open up your phone midway through and actually compose a text that made sense. But you know, I like that idea of like I'm now recharging in the middle and I'm gonna eat something. And again, all things that should be done in your mocks first, and then you take it to exam day after you've tested out maybe one or two different ways of doing it. So, and I said this actually just to my group yesterday. I said, you know, they're doing their CFP mock this weekend. And I said, you're going to replicate it exactly. We talked about going somewhere outside of the house. So they're not doing it in their pajamas, like in sweatpants, sitting down in your house where it's comfortable. You know, you need to get out of the comfort zone. I know we'll talk about this in a separate video, but this is something you're doing in your mock, and you're even doing this refueling in the middle. Like if you're eating too much, you know, in the middle, like don't have like four slices of pizza real quick and shove it down in 30 minutes, you know, but don't eat like a sprinkle either. Like, you know, this is something that you need to know what you're doing in the middle. So, like we said, on game day, like, how do you know what to do on game day, David? You did it in practice.
Mhm.
That's exactly what the mocks are meant to do. So, as always, feel free to reach out to David or myself with any questions, comments, and concerns, and we will see you guys very soon.